Good morning, Pickswise Nation. I'm Alex Glaze. He's Jared Smith. This is Let's Bet It. Jared, we got a ton to get to, to touch on today. But before we get into any of that, we got a lot going on, and the dominoes are starting to fall in the NFL. We see Matt Eberflus getting hired by the Bears. And the question now, we're starting to see rumors about Byron Leftwich and the Jaguars. Just what are your thoughts when we're starting to see these coaching changes start to happen?
Yeah, it's obviously very early on in the process. I'm curious. I'm curious the decision that the Giants go in. I think that's going to be a fascinating one with some of their situations. Obviously, we saw their GM come in.
Would you want to see Flores?
Yeah, I kind of do. I think the Dolphins have an interesting decision as well. Speaking of, and I think in general, I'm a little surprised that we haven't seen those names come across yet. I guess Flores really is the prized piece because he's kind of the last domino to fall. So that'll be the big one.
Was Dan Quinn until he decided that he's going.
Yeah, that was an interesting move too. Yeah. To be perfectly honest, I'm in the boat of giving new guys a chance. And don't get me wrong, I think Dan did a great job this year with that Cowboys defense. He had some very good pieces at his disposal. But I just don't. I would prefer, what do I know? I'm just a betting analyst, but I would prefer to see the newer names get a chance. And I know that's not Brian Flores, but Leftwich certainly is in that boat, and so is Eberflus. So good for those guys, and we'll see. The draft is really when things start to take shape, because that's when you start to see the plans of these teams kind of come to fruition a little bit. Right now, they're still in the building stage of the foundation. So we've got a lot of interesting offseason tidbits to iron out with some of these teams for sure.
Eberflus was interesting to me, but I think the biggest decision for the Bears is going to now be offensive coordinator.
Sure.
Just what that's going to determine what does the future of Justin Fields look like.
Yeah.
That's obviously a lot going on there. So certainly interesting as we continue. We're just holding on for dear life as football season slowly comes to
3 more games
to an end.
But weekend, and then we get the long wait.
But the news cycle never stops. No, because as soon as it ends, then it's draft, and then after the draft, then it's. It never stops. It never.
The good news is this week I had to prep for 2 games. Next week I only have to prep for 1, and then the week after that I just wait. So the amount of work that goes into prepping an NFL week is a lot. But that's the good thing about the less amount of games is we get to really I really deep dived into these games this week. And by the way, we just dropped Best Bets column this morning. It's out at Pickswise.com. Go check that out. I didn't go nuts this week. I only bet 1 teaser. I'll give it out on Sunday's show. But if you want to get a sneak peek, head to Pickswise.com. Best Bets column is live.
All right, there we go. And listen, as there are fewer games, those lines are only getting sharper because we're paying attention to fewer games, so are the odds makers. So those lines are razor sharp. Yeah, but before we get into today's show, make sure you download the Pickswise app. It's available in the App Store and on Google Play, and subscribe to the Pickswise YouTube channel. We do this show every day, 10 a.m. Make sure you don't miss out on any of the content we are doing here. On today's card, we got NBA Morning Radar. We're going to talk some NBA, talk some props. We're going to look at those conference championship games with Howard Bender. And then we're going to go to give out some ice picks and finish things off with our play of the day. So without further ado, Jared, let's bet it. And let's start with the NBA. And let's start with some props before we get into tonight's games, because the games at 10 a.m. can be a little difficult to handicap. Just look at last night. When did LeBron decide he was going to sit out? Because you were on a LeBron prop.
It was after I bet the prop. That's what.
And then I think it had to have been like 6 o'clock. All of a sudden, LeBron James knee injury going to be resting tonight. So it's difficult to handicap these games at 10 a.m. But we can give out some props. So do you have any props that you're eyeing right now?
I do. So NBA prop of the day. We're going to start. And, the goal for me is to give out 1 prop every day in the NBA. And the reason is, obviously, we could give out more. But I do think the prop market, in my opinion, when you're watching the prop and you're watching a certain player and you're tracking movement, you're tracking rotations, I do think it helps me get a little more invested in what's going on in the game. If I just bet a side or a total, I would just kind of watch the score and just kind of hope that, the score matched what I was looking for. But when I'm betting a prop, I'm a little more invested. So we're going with Al Horford tonight. And we're going to go with the Al Horford rebounds prop over 6.5. I got it at plus 104. By the way, I'm always looking for the plus money props. I do think those are long-term a little more sustainable, because when you lay a lot of juice with props, it can be taxing on your portfolio. So Horford, his last 5 games, 8, 4, 10, and 7. So he's 4-1 of the over this number over the last 5 games. And the Hawks over the last 5 games, bottom 10 team in defensive rebound percentage, bottom 2, 29th in offensive rebound percentage. So they give up a lot of boards lately. This is a low total game, so I'm not expecting a ton of scoring. If we get a lot of bricks, that means a lot of rebounds. I'm going to go Horford over 6.5 boards. That's a relatively low number for him. He's a double-double guy at times. So I would say Al Horford at plus money over 6.5 rebounds, NBA prop of the day.
I like that. I have to start off my little spiel by thanking Steph Curry. Last night for my play of the day, I gave out Steph Curry over 24.5 points. First half was looking kind of grim, but then Steph turned back into Steph Curry. So that's always good to see. My prop tonight, though, I'm going with a guy that is, in those MVP discussions. Maybe is he the best offensive player in the league? You think Nikola Jokic? I mean, he's up there.
Player, yeah.
He gets it done. But I'm going with Nikola Jokic to score 30 plus points, and for Denver to win. So it's a combo play here, plus 290 on FanDuel. So a lot of value there for me. He had 29 the last time these two teams played. 39, excuse me. The game went to overtime, but he only had 6 in OT, so 33 in regulation. Hasn't touched 30 points in the last 2 games, but he's starting to get to the free throw line more, which I like. Because the Nuggets don't have a ton of offensive production outside of Jokic consistently. Maybe Will Barton lately, but that's really about it. But I'd like that he hasn't scored under 25 points in 6 straight. And Embiid just gave this Jazz team, getting ahead of myself here. This Pelicans team 42 points. So they struggle with elite big men here. So I think this is a good spot for Jokic. 30 points, it's very doable for him. And I think that if he's going to get 25, you're at least in the fight, right? So I think there's a lot of value there at plus 290. So that's nice. My prop for the night.
Don't hate it. You're going big tonight.
Go big or go home. Little bit of value there. Do you have any sides that you're looking at or totals?
Well, I do want to mention some movement this morning. So I was looking at some totals this morning, and for the most part, for me, I don't bet a ton of NBA sides to begin with. I will in the playoffs when we get closer to the playoffs, when I know that the sides kind of matter a little bit more. The totals do tend to catch my eye. I noticed. So I'm betting, and I haven't bet a whole lot of totals yet this year because I haven't bet a whole lot of NBA. But when I look at this Knicks Bucks total at 2.6, so it opened 2.15. Now I'm seeing 2.17 at some spots. There is still a 2.16.5 available. I know I just bet it. Where did I bet it at? I think I bet it at MGM. That's where I bet it at MGM. So I think there are some interesting, options for this Knicks Bucks total, because you could still get 2.16.5, but I'm seeing 2.17, even 2.18 in a couple of spots. So this thing is kind of on the move this morning. And when I was looking at the numbers, it just didn't make sense to me. And I know the Knicks have struggled. Don't get me wrong. The Knicks offense is bad this year. They're 30th in points per game over their last 10. That's dead last. That's terrible. But overall, the Knicks are, I think, a slightly better offensive team than that recent stretch leads. And I think the reason is because of their three-point shooting. They're actually a pretty decent three-point shooting team. They're 9th over the last 10 games in three-point makes. And that's the Achilles heel of this Bucks team. 29th in opponent three-point makes per game over their last 10. 14. The Bucks are giving up 14 threes per game over their last 10. So I think with a Bucks team that's 5th in scoring this year, and that probably is playing a little bit under where their offensive expectations are over their recent stretch, to me, a total in the 2 teens seems a little light for a Bucks team. So I'm going over 216.5 with the Knicks and the Bucks. The other game I want to bring to your attention is the Suns and the Timberwolves. So Minnesota played last night. We talked about that Steph Curry game. He sliced and diced this T-Wolves team last night. And you get the Suns that are I don't want to call them the best offensive team in the league, but they're certainly amongst the best. They're 6th in rating this year. And the T-Wolves are just they're just a really poor defensive team. So second night of a back-to-back against the team as gifted as the Phoenix Suns are offensively. I do think this total has some value to the over. I got 229.5. I'm seeing a lot of 230s out there in the market. I would still play it at that spot. The other one I'm interested in, but I haven't gotten to the window yet. I'm probably going to lay off because I'm a little over-invested in the NBA tonight. The Jazz and the Grizzlies, that total opened 224.5. I'm seeing some 226s now in the market. So we've seen about a 1.5 movement with the Jazz and the Grizz. But the only ones that I'm actually betting tonight, Knicks, Bucks, Suns, T-Wolves, I'm a unit on each of those overs.
See, that Jazz Grizzlies game, that one kind of scares me with the injury situation. We don't know what's going on with Donovan Mitchell just yet, and I believe Gobert is already ruled out for that game.
Yeah, Gobert is out, so that to me that means more points.
Right.
Defensive presence. Yeah,
but Donovan Mitchell being out would be
is scary. Yes.
Yeah, so I would stay away from that until you get clear. But hey, everyone does what they want in these situations. Let's switch gears and let's bring in Howard Bender to talk about this weekend's NFL slate. And you guys know Howard Bender. He is the head of content for Fantasy Alarm. You can find him at Fantasy Sports Radio on SiriusXM and on the Ante Up podcast. Howard, thanks for joining us, my friend.
Lauren, you look absolutely fantastic. I love the haircut. It's absolutely spectacular. Doing the Sinead O'Connor thing, I'm all in.
Everyone's doing it these days, you know? Everyone's doing it these days.
They didn't tell me they were switching hosts on me. Alex, great to meet you.
There we go. Listen, I see you got a Yankees. We could talk about that later.
He's not gonna like that too much.
Well, everybody's in there. Northeast is about to get destroyed by a blizzard. Bro. I figured, as the Jets fan here and football winding down, I might as well get into my spring training mode here.
You look good, Howard. You look ready to go. You look ready. You're ready to pop open a pina colada with the Hawaii shirt on. I love it, man.
Yeah, Howard, right before Wild Card weekend, we talked to you, and you were telling us that you were rooting for a Bills-Bucks Super Bowl. Who do you think can win it all now?
Definitely the Bucks. Bucks are all in. I'm in on Tom Brady. They're going to cover the spread.
That fifth quarter against the Rams. If there was a fifth quarter in that game, I think the Bucks would have won.
Sure. I mean, listen. I mean, I love these matchups that we've got this weekend. I definitely do. I'm probably going to go with the chalky pick of saying it's going to be Chiefs Rams and go with that. But in all honesty, I would prefer, just for my heart's sake, I would prefer to see somebody like Cincinnati get in there. Obviously, Mahomes and the Chiefs have been there now. Was this 4 years in a row? So
it'll be 3. Yeah, 3.
I mean, listen, it's great. They're not, I think it was Pickswise who had a tweet talking about the Chiefs going full villain or something like that, like the Patriots did during their dynasty. I think Patrick Mahomes is actually a little too lovable for that.
His brother isn't. Maybe his brother's the villain.
I was gonna say, I don't know anyone on the Chiefs that is capable of being like a villain, like a super villain, but
nope.
Yeah, there's people Chiefs adjacent that could.
All these teams are pretty likable, I would say. I mean, obviously the Bengals, I would say, are the most likable because of the underdog story. And on the NFC side, I guess maybe the Niners because they've been there before. But the Niners are like a team of destiny. They've got that Cinderella vibe to them. And the Rams, with Stafford, of course, feel good story with all the trials.
You know what? That is what's missing. This team that just everyone can just hate. Like they're like, oh my gosh, anybody but
Patriots.
Yeah, we all still hate the Patriots, and no doubt about it.
Jets fan, so is Howard, so maybe we're a little biased with that.
Ravens fan, I'm with you.
There you go.
There it is. So
you're on the Steelers hate bandwagon. That's your hated team.
No, but you know that I have a love for Mike Tomlin. We're getting off topic. We're getting off topic here. But Howard, we're talking about these games this weekend, but I want to ask about a postseason award here. Who do you think can win this comeback player of the year award? I mean, I feel like a lot of people for most of the season thought it was going to be Dak Prescott, but Joe Burrow, maybe?
I mean, I don't really see why it wouldn't be Joe Burrow right now. If you're looking at the guys who had the major injuries that everybody was looking at as comeback player early on, you had Christian McCaffrey and you had Saquon Barkley listed there, and Dak Prescott was definitely the favorite based on what we saw with the potential of Dallas's offense. But I honestly don't see why it wouldn't be Joe Burrow. I mean, this dude has come back. Not only has he come back from the ACL injury, but he's doing it with just this confidence and swagger right now that, sometimes you see it when you see it in a young player like Burrow's age, you kind of think, wow, this dude's super obnoxious, right? But it's just a matter of like he's got that subtle swag about him. Maybe it's, you just keep picturing him sitting there at LSU puffing on a cigar or something like that. But, even when he was telling the story of Evan McPherson turning to Brandon Allen being like, yeah, looks like we're going to the AFC Championship game. Like, even then you were like, it's not cocky, is good swagger going on here. And he's leading his team. They went from being a very, very run-centric team early on in the season, and then they completely unleashed Burrow with Higgins and Jamar Chase in the second half. So, I mean, based on where they are right now, I don't see why you don't give it to Joe Burrow.
I think it's going to be Dak still.
But why? Why? He were terrible. He looked awful down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the award has a whole lot to do with the playoffs. But I could be wrong about that. I think it's the regular season, but I could be wrong about that. Dak's injury was so gruesome, and the Cowboys did have a really good year. Like I know it didn't work out for them in the first round of the playoffs, and Burrow's in the AFC Championship game. If you were basing it off of the playoffs, yes, I think you give it to Joe Burrow. If you're basing it on the regular season, I think Dak's the guy. But we'll see.
A lot of the Cowboys issues during the regular season weren't on Dak. It was, Amari Cooper out with COVID for a couple weeks. Then you had CeeDee Lamb going out with an injury. Was out without a couple weapons for a little bit of a stretch there. Zeke having his issues. So a lot of it just
this year.
But yeah, I mean,
it's a toss-up. Honestly, I could make a case for Burrow, no doubt.
It's not as much of a runaway as people might.
Yeah, it's definitely it was a runaway mid-season, and then Burrow played really well down the stretch. Obviously, the Bengals won the division. The Cowboys won the division too, though. So, I think both players have a really strong claim to the throne there.
The three of us with a football and a helmet and sharing shoulder pads could have won the NFC East. Let's face it.
Eagles had a good year. They were in the
that division is terrible. Terrible. The Jets would have at least been contending for the divisional title.
That's where I draw the line with the Jets. So sadly, I'll give you this stat before I move on to the picks. The Jets now, because the Bengals got into the playoffs, the Jets now have the longest postseason drought, 11 consecutive years. It's really sad. Very sad. I haven't watched the Jets playoff game in over a decade. It's a very sad state of affairs for.
Don't worry, at least you got a quarterback now, right?
No, I don't believe that either, actually.
They won the Super Bowl the year before I was born. Please.
Howard.
Oh, my God.
And Alex, until I see you in your Trent Dilfer jersey, I don't want to hear nothing about nobody.
Well, hold on, we got Ray Lewis autograph. We got the Ed Reed for Super Bowl balls. I mean, listen.
He's got it all, man.
Listen,
yeah. Here we go. Right?
Was that Ray Lewis' last home game? Saw him come out the tunnel. I was right there. So listen, we're here. But now I'm preparing for 15 plus years of Joe Burrow. So I'm just I'm going to hold on to those memories because it feels like it's not a lot going on in the future in the AFC when it comes to the Ravens. But want to move on real quick, Howard, and just from a daily fantasy perspective, when you look at these games, who has the best value in the playoffs that's left? I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when you're looking at it from a daily standpoint right now, I mean, obviously, Chase is high up on everybody's list. Cooper Kupp, very high up on everybody's list on the other side. I think Joe Mixon could be a sneaky play here. I mean, the thing about Mixon is that he's probably more sink or swim. Because he could be very easily game flowed out of this one here on Sunday, because if the Chiefs go up 17-3, Zach Taylor's going to be like, nope, got to do that. It's going to be a tough situation here. I think when you're looking for guys who present strong value, you kind of have to move down into some of those lower tiers. Odell Beckham Jr., Brandon Ayuk might be an interesting one there. Tyler Boyd, even. I like him with Cincinnati. I like the way they go over the middle there, and I do think that the Chiefs can be vulnerable there across the middle. Even though I know that Tyrann Mathieu is expected to be back and he was back at practice, I just feel like that's a vulnerable spot where they're going to want to be. But I mean, if you're just saying must have in lineups, I don't see why Travis Kelce isn't locked into everybody's DFS lineup no matter what. I mean, against the Bengals, who were like the 5th worst in DVOA against the tight end position, they gave up I think the 4th or 5th most fantasy points per game to the position itself. So this is going to be a Kelce move.
So what's the Super Bowl pick then? Chiefs Niners. Everyone the chat's asking right now. Rematch of the Super Bowl. Chiefs win again. What's the Super Bowl prediction, Howard?
I'm going. All right. So if we're gonna make the picks right now, I'm gonna say I'm gonna take San Francisco with the points. Okay. But I want the Rams on the money line there. I think the Rams ultimately win this game. I think the Chiefs do win this game. You know, you broke my heart yesterday, Jared. I was hoping that maybe you would jump on that Cincy bandwagon just so I could show up this morning with like a who day. But you know, I mean, you didn't let me, and I, you know, and I agree with you. I agree with you that I think the Chiefs, especially at 7, they're laying 7. I did see in one place that you could get it at 7.5, which kind of had me thinking about
towards Cincy. I do think it's going to be the Bengals 7.5 closing number. I do think so.
Ooh, I'm still going to say it's going to be Chiefs Rams in the Super Bowl, and I think the Chiefs end up doing it.
Do you remember that game a couple years ago? It was Goff. It was a Thursday night game. It was Chiefs Rams, and it was like 50-45 or something absurd. That if we get a game like that in the Super Bowl, I'll be very happy. Very happy.
Who doesn't want that track meet in the 4th quarter, right?
Oh, I remember that. I'll have to look up the score. If we do in fact get that game, I will do a deep dive on that one. It was like 3 years ago on like a Thursday night, Rams Chiefs, and the game was just bananas. It was bonkers.
We can dream. The best games already happened.
Fair. Unfortunately, I do think you're right, but
we can dream though. We can.
You never know. We're never gonna. So let's just leave it at this. We're not gonna top the late game drama between the Bills and the Chiefs, but we might get some interesting storylines and some interesting, threads in these games on Sunday that, are intriguing to say the least. But I don't think we're going to top that drama. No way. That game was nuts. That game was absolutely.
Howard, before I let you go, I got to ask you about my guy since we were talking about tight ends. Higbee. Love Higbee. I don't know why. What are your thoughts on him?
I kind of worry about Higbee a little bit. San Francisco's been good against the tight end. If he's running that seam route or a nice wheel route up the side, maybe he can break through a little bit. But that front 7 for the 49ers has been rock solid the entire time. So, even a linebacker in coverage there against Tyler Higbee, with a little bit of safety help can work. I think Higbee's success, believe it or not, I feel like Higbee's success is going to come, based on what happens with Van Jefferson. I think if Van Jefferson has a good game, they're going to ignore Higbee. But if Van just doesn't come through like he hasn't over the last couple, then, Higbee could do a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised to see like a 4 for 48 type game from him, but I don't necessarily know if he's going to, kind of bust through here.
4 for 48 gets us home. I think his yardage prop was 39.5, so we're good. We're good with that.
There you go.
All right, that is Howard Howard Bender. You can find him at Fantasy Sports Radio on Sirius XM and the Ante Up podcast. Howard, thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Always a pleasure.
HB, you're the man.
Peace.
All right, Jared. Ice Picks.
Yeah.
You got any tonight? The people come for the Ice Picks. I mean, usually
they do.
They come for Lauren's Ice Picks, but
I tell you what, they're not coming for. I already saw some hate in the chat about my college basketball picks. Guess what, guys? I'm giving out another one tonight. Feel free to fade it. Don't care.
Well, hold on. Before we get into Ice Picks, I jumped the gun a little bit here. I jumped the gun. I got to promote us. I got to promote what we're doing here. We're doing this new thing. It's called Halftime Handicap, and we're going to be on Twitter at halftime of this weekend's games, both the games. Jared and I were going to be talking about betting angles for the second half, talking live odds, what we're thinking, what we thought about the first half, breaking it down during halftime. So if you are on Twitter, like everyone is during halftime, tap in and join us. And hopefully we'll give out some halftime winners this weekend.
The goal is to give out one official halftime pick because, I mean, you can bet as many picks as you want, but the goal is to give out like a Pickswise consensus. Alex and I will talk through what we saw, and we'll hopefully come to a reasonable conclusion in a short amount of time about a second half bet. Because, actually when, I used to do a lot of live programming on NFL Sundays, in-game betting, live betting, halftime betting, you get a better number sometimes, and you get more data, more information about the schemes and maybe try to predict what some adjustments could be. So I do think there is a lot of value in that. And I know the live betting has been very popular, so we're going to try to jump on it. I do have one bet tonight. I'm actually disappointed Jack's not with us this morning. Maybe he's in the chat, maybe he's not, because I was hoping that he was going to convince me to bet the Rangers tonight. They are raising the banner on Henrik Lundqvist. It is his number retirement ceremony. But I'll be honest, this is a really, really tough spot for the Rangers tonight. They were in Lumbee last night. Then they have to fly back to New York tonight, and they're a pretty hefty underdog, I would say, a home dog. I saw the Wild go for -120. I'm seeing now -130, -140 in a couple of spots. The Rangers are about a +120-ish underdog at home on banner-raising night. I kind of want to bet the Rangers, Alex, but I don't like the line.
Banner night. You got to do it. There's only one way to bet that game. It's a banner game.
Yeah, I agree. But we'd be basically blindly betting into where the line movement is going against. So it's like you're trying to swim upstream when the current's going the other way. Maybe they win. Maybe they carry through. But second of a back-to-back, that's got to be tough.
With travel.
It's true. The Wild.
I know we're both attacking this Caps Stars game from different angles here. I'll let you start because you're on a side.
Yeah, Dallas to me is the stronger side here. They've only allowed 2 goals in their last 2 games. And I was at the game earlier this week at the Rock at the Prudential Center, and the Stars came out the first 15 seconds of each period, the first and the second period, boom, quick goal. Like I hadn't even gotten my hot dog and sat down yet, and the Stars are already up 1-0. And I think overall the Stars team is hot. They've won 4 straight. They've scored 18 goals during that stretch. The Caps are in like midseason sluggish mode. They've only scored 1 goal in their last 2 games. They were shut out by Vegas the other night. Then they lost to the Sharks 4-1 in their last game. So to me, I lean on the side of Dallas. This line flipped overnight. It was kind of a pick 'em, and now the Stars are a solid favorite. So I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm going to go Stars in regulation, the 3-way money line. I got +140. I thought that was a really solid price there. So to me, that's the bet to make in this game. I think Dallas is going to get it done on home ice.
Got a comment in the chat here from Jimmy. New York teams lose on banner night. All sports.
I don't even want to dignify that with a response. Jimmy's not wrong, unfortunately.
Jimmy is not wrong. I'm looking at the total for this game, and I like the over. We kind of touched on this earlier in the week. When we see those 5.5, it's kind of like the antennas go up a little bit.
Yeah.
This is a Stars team. They've been rolling offensively, 21 goals in their past 5 games. The Caps are the reason why this total is low. They have struggled to find the back of the net. They've struggled to put pucks in net. But they've got to break through eventually. And, they got Ovi and the 9th highest scoring defenseman on their team. So I think it's got to break through eventually for them. 5.5 is a low total. So I'm going to go with the over here because even if, the Caps can't do their part, they've struggled between the pipes as well. So that's been quietly, or maybe not so quietly around here, their issue. So over 5.5 will be my play for that one. You have any other ice plays tonight?
No other hockey plays. It's a short card, 5 games. I'll mention the Rado Hawks game because we were on this over the other night at 6, and that was when it was in Denver, and the game didn't even get close. Rado won 2-0. So it was one of those really low-scoring games. I mean, a 2-goal game for Colorado is super low, and the Blackhawks have kind of been this higher-scoring team this year too. So return matchup, there's been I think Colorado's played 2 games in between, maybe just 1. Chicago's played 1. But the total now has gone up. It was 6 when we bet it last week or earlier this week. Now it's 6.5. So I hate betting unders in hockey, like loathe. It's just a massive sweat the whole game. But 6.5, I kind of would lean to the under there, considering we just saw a game 2-0 between these teams like 4 nights ago. So 6.5, the fact that the total's gone up since that game earlier this week, I think is a bit of a misprice. I'm not betting it, but if I were to bet the Rado Hawks game, I would probably go under. Boston, Arizona late night game. I mean, obviously Boston's favored by a ton. They're on the road. The Yotes have been terrible. That's probably a layoff. And we're going to get to, actually, I'll give it out now. We'll do the 3-star play now. And it is this Detroit-Pittsburgh game. It is the over 6.5 in the Pens and the Wings. And remember last night we were talking about the Kraken-Pens game and how that total was super high and it went way under. And obviously first of a back-to-back for the Penguins. Now they're in the second game of a back-to-back. I do like that over a lot. I think the Penguins will come out smoking tonight after they had a relatively light offensive game last night. And the Wings are an over team. They've been pretty poor defensively all year. And their offense actually been a little better. Younger dudes on offense for the Wings. So over 6.5. Tyler Mortimer, your Pickswise 3-star play of the day in the Pens Wings.
What's your play?
After the hate I've gotten in the chat today about my college basketball picks, I kind of want to give out this college basketball over just to shut.
You got to do it. You got to do it. Lean into it. Yeah,
I apologize. I'm pulling an AG here, changing my play of the day midstream.
Perfect. We love it. You got to.
Yeah, we're gonna do it just to piss some people off in the chat because they do not like my college basketball picks. So here we go. Buffalo and Ohio, Maction over.
Dumpster diving. Let's go.
On a Friday night. So Buffalo is 17th in adjusted tempo. They're coming off an 86-75 loss to Toledo. Ohio played Toledo last Friday. They lost 87-69. So Toledo's putting up some big numbers. And I think we're going to see some over vibes in this game because of Buffalo's tempo. So Ohio shoots a lot of threes. That's the one thing to keep in mind about the Bobcats. Buffalo actually defends the three relatively well for the season. But in that game against Toledo that I just mentioned, they gave up – what did they give up? A ton of them. They gave up a ton of threes. The Rockets got to the line a bunch of times as well. They made 25 free throws. So I think it's going to be a free throw and a 3-point game for Ohio. And Buffalo just likes to run and run and run and run and run. And I again, you don't like my college basketball picks. I really don't care. I'm betting the over 149.5 between Buffalo and Ohio. It's going to be the play of the day. Go ahead and fade it. I dare you. I dare you.
Oh, let's go. Hey, listen. I am in the dumpster with you. I'm in the dumpster with you today, and I'm in the MAC. And you're talking a lot about Toledo. I'm on Toledo tonight. I'm laying the 7 points. They're the best team in the MAC. They're at home tonight. Todd Kowalczyk has those boys humming, and I love it. They've covered the spread in each of their last 7 wins, and they won 6 of those by double digits. They're playing Akron tonight. Akron on a winning streak as well, but they have been beating up on some bad MAC teams, and they have been winning, but not covering. So just kind of like they're winning, but we don't really care about. We want to cover, and they're not getting that done. Toledo getting it done. You look at the analytics here. The Rockets offense 47th in adjusted efficiency, 99th in adjusted defensive efficiency, and Akron 125th shooting, 132nd in 3-point shooting, and a bad free throw shooting team. One of the worst in the country actually. They ranked 310th. Not a lot of success when you got to go on the road to Savage Arena tonight, and it is going to be rocking in there because Toledo's got a basketball team. So I'm going to lay the 7 points with the Rockets tonight. My Toledo Rockets.
Rockets red glare, baby.
My Toledo Rockets. Before we get out of here, I want to mention our Pickswise halftime handicap show again. Jared and I will be live on Twitter during halftime of both of the conference championship games. We're going to be talking about betting angles and breaking down first half and looking forward to the second half of those games from a live betting perspective, and hopefully coming together to give out one winner for each game during the show. So that's the goal for the show. We're going to be live during halftime on Twitter. So join us, tap in, join the discussion, and we'll have a chat out, right? We'll have a chat up and we'll be talking to the people. Maybe?
Yeah, we'll be doing the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, we like to do that. So for Jared, I'm Alex. We are in the dumpster tonight for our plays of the day.
Stubborn dumpster dive.
That's right.
So hey, you know what? Friday night action. Come on, let's just have a night. Friday night action.
I'm all in. Good luck with your bets tonight.